I'm Tyler Jones, and coming up on this edition of the Racing Roundtable, I'm going to explain why Joe Gibbs Racing is in good hands for the long-term future.
I'm Dominic Aragon. We're going to explain why Ty Gibbs is a championship contender.
I'm at Kemp. I'll tell you why it's time to start worrying about the five team.
With us here on the Racing Roundtable, Tyler Jones here with you. Appreciate you all joining us. We got a loaded show ahead. We are going to be joined by artist Bruno Rafael as he got some attention from Mike Joy of Fox NASCAR, and that's only a little bit of the story of Bruno. We'll tell you about him and everything that he's doing when he joins us coming up in just a little while from right now. Plus, we'll look back on Ty Gibbs' win at Bristol this past weekend, finally rolling into victory lane for the first time in his career. We'll also look ahead to this weekend's action at Kansas, get you our news and notes, top headlines in the sport as well, coming up at the end of today's show. Joining me, as always, is Dominic Aragon and Matt Kemp. Guys, let's begin with Ty Gibbs getting it done. Dominic, no beating around the bush when it came to this victory for Ty Gibbs. This was an earned win. This was not a lucky strategy or a fuel mileage race or rain delay. He went out there and won it, and he did so with the tire advantage that we saw that Ryan Blaney had, holding off a former champion to get the job done. And you look at Ty Gibbs, you've been on him for the last few weeks, Dom, of how good he's raced. 6 straight top 6 finishes. This win was not a fluke by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, and holding off 2 champions, too, with Kyle Larson in the wings right there at that race. But Ty Gibbs becoming the 207th different NASCAR Cup Series race winner in 78 years. And you guys know me. I like to look at the numbers and kind of go back and really dive deep into it. And this is the 11th straight year now that we have a new winner, at least one new winner per season. And it's only been 10 seasons in NASCAR 78 history where you don't have a new winner per season. So Ty Gibbs continues that streak going forward. But like I said a few weeks back, Tyler, the floodgates were going to open for Ty Gibbs. He's going to get multiple wins this year. And I said that weeks ago. I've been really high on Ty Gibbs this year. And the momentum is not slowing down one bit. When he keeps running as well as he is at a road course at COTA, short tracks like Bristol and Martinsville, to the mile-and-a-half tracks, how can you not say the 54 team are looking like championship contenders this early in the year?
They've been good everywhere at this point, and you can't say that about many drivers at all. And Matt, what does this mean for Ty to finally break through and get this win? We've talked about on this show that he broke J.J. Yaley's record for most consecutive starts at Joe Gibbs Racing without a Cup victory, and now he finally gets it done. And what's the saying, that the first one's always the toughest? Do you see more wins in the future? Was this a breakthrough for Ty Gibbs?
I mean, I definitely think it doesn't hurt anything. They say winning fixes everything. I think that's kind of the saying that's been floating around here lately. But no, it's a huge deal for Ty Gibbs. I feel like it stops people from saying, is he ever going to win in Cup? He's never going to win in Cup, right? Stops all those conversations. But it's a huge confidence boost. Not saying that you necessarily probably needed that or whatnot, but when you go so long without winning, Connor Zilisch had a great quote at one point during the weekend talking about how, it's great to go down and win the O'Reilly Series race, because he said, you forget who you are when you're not winning week in and week out. So Ty Gibbs, I'm sure after a couple of seasons of racing in the Cup Series and finding out how competitive it really is, has probably had some days where his confidence was hurt. So it's a really great thing to get to victory lane for him, and I can only imagine that it's going to open up the floodgates. And Toyota's been so good this year, so I wouldn't doubt it.
I can't imagine anybody was happier than Joe Gibbs to see his grandson get into victory lane for the first time in the NASCAR Cup Series, but also breathe a sigh of relief. I think everybody would agree that if Ty Gibbs' last name was not Gibbs, he would still not be in that ride after having the worst points season of his career last year and still not getting into victory lane. And now you see the gamble in Ty Gibbs pay off. I know that, he's been labeled a Nepo baby and everything like that, but here's Joe Gibbs. He stuck to his guns, and we've seen guys like Eric Jones, for example, have a lot more success earlier in their careers at Joe Gibbs Racing and not get the benefit of the doubt that Ty Gibbs did. And now they look like they have found something in Ty Gibbs. And you factor in with Denny Hamlin there, Chase Briscoe, Christopher Bell. That driver lineup all of a sudden looks pretty solid. We don't know how much longer Joe's going to do this, as he's in his mid 80s at this point, but he's got to feel a lot better, much more confident about that direction of the organization going forward from here now that Ty has gotten this monkey off his back.
I would think too that this win, you think of milestone victories, and Joe Gibbs is no short of that, from winning Super Bowls to winning Daytona 500s to NASCAR championships. But to see your grandson win a cup race, and for how long it has taken for that to happen, I think this is, if not the top accomplishment for Joe Gibbs, it is certainly in the top 5, Tyler, because of course professional accolades are great, but when there's family tied to it, for better or for worse, when there's family tied to something like that, it's only going to make it that much more special. Perhaps one of the greatest days of Joe Gibbs himself, his life.
So, Matt, other headlines from this weekend at Bristol. Tyler Reddick had a good run. Didn't have the tires to, keep it going there towards the end, but was one of his strongest showings at a short track that we've seen. Huge for that team. Ryan Blaney ran up front. Kyle Larson made things interesting there towards the end. You think it might be panic mode time for that 5 team right now?
Well, I think it's time to turn up the concern level for sure. We're going into one of his best places in Kansas. Again, it's one of Toyota's best places too. Obviously, 2311's been kind of insane there over the last 5-6 years. Joe Gibbs Racing has been very good at Kansas as well. Even Penske's shown really great signs of brilliance there. But I think if we go into this weekend and the 5 team doesn't find victory lane or look like they're going to undoubtedly end up in victory lane at some point throughout the night, I think it's time to turn up the knob of concern for them. And I think with a team as stout as they are and as stout as Kyle Larson is and how good they've looked over the last few years, they need a pretty spectacular day to they're coming on almost a year. I think Kansas last spring was his last win, right? So we're coming up on pretty close to 36 races since he's last won.
A long time for Kyle Larson, that 5 team, with as good as they've been since he's hopped in that car. Dominic, tell us about this week's guest.
This week's guest is somebody been wanting to get on the show for quite a while now, and the schedules have finally aligned. If you follow along on social media with this sport, you have likely seen some of his comics and some of the cool things that he's doing, and how quickly he's able to turn his NASCAR comics. Comics by Bruno would be the name that you're looking for on X. Bruno Rafael joins us this week here on the Racing Roundtable. Bruno, we've been wanting to make this happen for a long, long time. My friend, thank you so much for joining us here this week on the Racing Roundtable.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long time, actually, since you talked to me the first time, but finally we get to do this.
Yeah, it's gonna be a great show. And Tyler, Matt, I gotta share. I'm gonna put Bruno on the spot here a little bit. But when we were going back and forth initially last year about getting him on the show, he was saying that he's been following the show for quite a bit of time, and he's using our show for a little bit of prep for the weekends.
Yeah, I used to do that. Your was one of the shows that I used to listen to. I can say that it wasn't every week, maybe once a month or so, because I worked on television for a long time, from 2009 until the end of 2024. I was basically one of the voices of NASCAR in my country, Portugal, and I had to do research every single week, and my research was basically listen to podcasts from Sunday night until Friday, more or less.
Say some ridiculous things over the years is what you're saying.
Basically, yes. But Right now, I can tell you something. I've listened. I haven't listened. I have to tell you the truth. I haven't listened to you guys for a while now. But it's not just you guys. I only listen to a couple podcasts every week as entertainment. But I haven't even watched m much of the races. I only watch highlight shows at the moment because I finally have free weekends. So I don't want to spend the time in front of the TV every single Sunday and Saturday.
Can't say blame you, but man, we appreciate
Yeah.
any downloads. All our listeners, we appreciate every single one of you, and appreciate you taking a listen. So, I guess take us back to the beginning, Bruno. I know you have a deep, rich history with motorsports and NASCAR and the work you've been doing, but where did it all start for you? How did you get interested in motorsports in the first place? And we'll go from there.
Well, to give you a little bit of my backstory, I'm from Portugal, not Spain, like Mike Joyce said on the during qualifying the other day. But I don't care. I was Spanish that day. I don't care. But I'm being from Portugal. I'm not from the mainland Portugal. I'm from the Azores, Terceira Island, to be more specific. And maybe some of your listeners know where that is. The Azores is a group of 9 islands that belongs to Portugal and is right in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean between Europe and North America. And in Terceira, we have an Air Force base that was used by the United States from the end of the Second World War until just a few years ago. But because of what's happening in the Middle East, we have a lot of Americans here in the island at the moment. So I kind of grew up with American culture all around me, but I had no idea about NASCAR until 1992 when I was 11 years old and I watched Days of Thunder for the first time. Like most people that are not American, it's either Cars, Talladega Nights, or Days of Thunder in my case. And I became obsessed with NASCAR at the moment I watched that movie. And then 1 or 2 years later, I started watching the races. And because of the Air Force Base, they had the Armed Forces Network around the world for the military, and half of the island could catch the signal of the American TV station. So on Sundays, I would go with my dad to the golf club. He would play. I would watch American cartoons a year before they came to Portuguese TV. And sometimes I would catch a glimpse of NASCAR races also, especially the Daytona 500. And but I was already watching on European networks NASCAR. And the comics, they started way later. I started doing comics about every type of racing around the mid 2000s. I worked for Robbie Gordon's social media website that he had in the late 2000s, early 2010s. I was doing the banners and also started doing some cartoons about the Dakar Rally that he used to go race every January. And that kind of made me start doing a little bit more of NASCAR stuff. I used to have a blog that would I would post, but only in 2019 did I start doing the comics regularly like I do today. And that's when I also started publishing them on social media in English, which is important because I'm Portuguese. And if I publish them in Portuguese, nobody would care about it because NASCAR is still a very small niche here in Portugal. And so I started in English. Someone saw one of the comics in the early days and published and shared it somewhere. I think it was on. I don't remember if it was on X or maybe somewhere else, and it kind of started like a snowball, and people in the industry started commenting on them. A couple drivers. Then I started seeing the followers, and I would have people from journalists to drivers to people in NASCAR in general following me. I don't have big following, but uh, my comics usually reach a few thousand people, tens of thousands of people every week.
Truly the power of social media. because that's how I
Yes.
discovered you initially. Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's how most people discovered me was through social media.
Well, I'm glad I ended up there because ever since I first saw your comics, I've been probably one of your most loyal follows. Every week I look forward to to the comics. So I feel like I'm opening the Sunday paper. It's the equivalent nowadays for us being on social media. But I'm curious, how did the comics actually like start? What was the first do you remember like the first time that you put one together? You said you started doing them in Portuguese first and then eventually switched it over to English.
Yeah, the ones I did in Portuguese weren't really about NASCAR. Well, when I was a kid watching Days of Thunder, I probably did the movie in comic book form like 3 or 4 times, but I don't have any of that anymore. But the first comic I remember doing was about Carl Edwards in the Montreal race when it was raining a lot and he used a Swiffer to clean the windshield back in 2008, maybe. I posted that on my blog at the time. But the current ones, the first thing I did was maybe around the 2018 Daytona 500. I did a couple, but then in 2019, the first one I remember really doing was Atlanta race, the first Atlanta race of the season, because Truex was complaining at the end because of I think it was Stenhouse that was blocking him with air, and Stenhouse was a lap down, but Truex was like half a mile behind Stenhouse, and I took that and made a little comic about it, and then it kind of started from there.
What a journey it has been for you as we're talking to Bruno Rafael this week here on Let's Go Racing. So I got to ask you, Bruno, what does NASCAR's following kind of look like in Spain?
Spain, not Portugal. uh, yes. When I started working on TV, I, you didn't have much people watching. Right now, the numbers are growing. You can see it. If you go to social media, you'll find a lot of motorsports fans that have on their avatars Kyle Busch or Jimmy Johnson. And that's something interesting because if you watch NASCAR outside of the United States, in my opinion, you really are a motorsports fan. You watch everything. You spend your entire weekend watching Formula One, WRC, NASCAR, IndyCar, whatever. While people that usually are F1 fans, they will not watch anything else. It's the same with NASCAR fans in the United States. They hardly ever watch anything outside of NASCAR. So you really have to be in that small niche of people that watch all of motorsports. But even motorsports here, it's not that big. Formula One, yes, but to give you an example, probably at the bigger races in F1, you'll have 200,000 people watching on TV. We're only 10 million. So it's that much. NASCAR, I can't, because of the hours also, NASCAR races, the cup races usually start around 7 to 8 p.m. Uh, Truck series midnight, 1, 2 p.m., 2 a.m. So those races, you only have maybe a couple thousand people watching, but that's the norm here.
So that's a great kind of segue into my comment, really of what it kind of takes to follow NASCAR in Portugal. You mentioned kind of having to, ping off of the airbase internet or
Yeah, yeah.
satellite, right, to be able to watch
No,
early on.
antenna. At the time, it was
Yeah.
the old antenna style.
really old
So
school
Yeah,
there.
so
yeah, yeah,
I feel like in the United States nowadays with getting the streaming services and jumping around from
yeah.
channel to channel like they've done over the last decade or so, I feel like it's getting more and more difficult for like a casual viewer to like find it and follow it and watch it. I can only imagine being in somewhere like Portugal Is it, I mean, it's got to be difficult to even
Uh,
follow the schedule.
Not really. It's actually the other way around because the contract here is the full season on the same network. So you'll have right now it's Sport TV where I used to work, and they'll show all 38 races from Cup, all the races from Xfinity or Rally this year, and trucks. So in Europe usually the contracts are not like in the United States. But in the beginning, when I started watching in the 90s, we would only have the usually highlight shows and races from ESPN and ABC. You couldn't watch the Daytona 500 and all the TNN races from the old days from Mike Joy you wouldn't watch. So
Wow.
it's kind of in some ways it's better, but we only have the races. We don't have practice. We don't have qualifying and other shows. So it's just the races.
Yeah. We got what we can, right? You want to be able to follow along and try to consume as much motorsports as you can.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know if I'm taking the conversation a completely different direction, but just I guess for my rookie question here, when it comes to designing the actual comics
Yeah.
themselves, like I guess without revealing your secrets as to trade secrets on it, like how does it all come together? Like, is it a lot of digital? Is it a lot of hand drawn stuff? Like, kind of take us through that process of the actual making of your comics each week.
These days I use an iPad Pro and I use an app called Procreate Art. And it's drawn by hand but digitally. It's like it was on paper, but it's digitally. And I started by sketching it, and then I start working on it. Sometimes it takes 4 or 5 hours. Sometimes it takes 10, 20 hours. It depends on the comic. The weekly ones that I do, the most it takes is around 10 hours spread through the week. That's why I usually publish them on Saturdays or even on Sundays, the next Sunday. Uh, because there's something else also. I really enjoy having all the following I have and people enjoying my comics. But first and foremost, I do this for myself. It's like my therapy during the week. So I'm the one who has to be happy with the final product, first of all. And if you guys enjoy it, it's even better. But if I'm the one who has to like it first of all. And but that's the time it takes. And I haven't started this week's comic yet. I'll probably do it tomorrow with sketching, and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, I'll end it.
One of my favorite things that you do with the comics is on the cars, how you kind of play up the sponsors
Yeah.
for each individual one. That's one of my favorite things. Um,
That's That's actually that came from Landon Castle. I was listening to an interview of his a few years ago, and he started talking about a T-shirt he made one time, and all the trouble he had because of the sponsors, because all of them needed to get their share of it. And I thought about it and said, well, if I change the names and make them all generics, that will make, in a way, nobody can tell me I can't do it, first of all. And then it's funny sometimes because I go out of my way sometimes to find a funny way to just say tools instead of Stanley or homes instead of lows, something like that.
is that included in the time frame of your 10 to 20 hours you're telling us, or is that additional research on top of the
No,
design?
it comes on. It comes during the time I'm doing making the comics. But it's I find it funny when I try to make that. It's
So,
great.
what's kind of your goals for your comics here?
Uh, like I said, I do this first of and foremost for myself. But sometimes I get people calling me and asking me to do some work. I've done work for NASCAR. For a couple of years. Corey Joy's podcast, Stacking Pennies, was the logo and the image that was on the podcast platforms was made by myself. I even done a few cartoons for them, 1 minute cartoons for them. I've done work for other drivers in smaller series. So once in a while, someone calls me and says, "Hey, can you do this or that?" And I'll do it. I did something for NASCAR Brock. I did a couple things for him last year. I don't know if you guys know the Degenerate Racers guys. I also do a Christmas card for them. Also did that for Texas Motor Speedway a couple of years. So that's the part I've found really fun about this comic stuff is that people that I would never imagined that I would even talk to them, talk to me and ask me to do this and that, and if we reach an agreement, I'll do it.
That's awesome stuff. We appreciate you being here with us this week, Bruno. Now, I believe we have the screen share that we can do. Bruno, can you show us potentially what you're
Uh,
working on here?
Let me see if I can share with you the one. Let Give me a second.
Problem.
Here it
Little sneak peek
is.
here on the Racing Roundtable.
Yeah. No, I've been doing one. My favorite comics usually are the ones about the old days, especially the 90s. And can you see it now?
Oh yeah.
Would you look at that?
Yeah. Okay. So it's a small video of the process of me doing the comic. So I started with some sketches, and this is a race from 1994 during the height of the tire war between Goodyear and Hoosiers. It was at Dover, and one of the moments in this race was Dale Earnhardt scratching the pace car when he after he hit the wall hard. So it's a bit different of what I'm used to do because I have more than one scene in the comic, but this is my type of comics that I really enjoy doing because it's not that weekly grind of having to do something about last week's race.
How about that? And of course, me being a Jeff Bodine guy, I love seeing the seven. Of course, wishing the seven
Yes,
wasn't in the wall during this race. That year was hard on that team, but really
yes.
cool to see that Excite Battery 7 in there.
The, and this was a very important race in my opinion because of the all the crashes that happened because of the tires. The Dover it was one of the final races. They had asphalt. The asphalt was really old. They used a sealer in the asphalt, and I think and cars were running way too fast. But Bodine's crash was not because of the tires. Actually, he made a small mistake, hit Jeff Burton, and they both crashed. But then Dale Jarrett also got involved because of the other Bodine Todd. And but that's my favorite era of NASCAR, 93, 94, 95. I'm thinking about doing some work around that time frame.
I
We appreciate you showing us this, Bruno. For folks watching the video version, getting this visual in real time of some of this awesome artwork that Bruno's got. Definitely
Oh,
check that out. Go ahead.
by the way, this 34, 35 seconds video that you watch time lapse, it's around 20 hours of work already.
Wow.
wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a lot of
yeah,
work.
yeah. But
And
it's fun. The part that I enjoy the most is the work. When the comic is done, I look at it maybe 2 or 3 times, and I go to the next one.
guys, they say you can really appreciate the stuff you can't do. And artwork is very much a weak spot for me, but I've always been able to appreciate what kind of work people are able to do. And you look at it and you make it look easy. I know it's not easy work. I know that's a
No.
ton of work you've put into this, but you make it look awesome and I don't know. It just you can tell you
I
have a knack for it.
I always say this. You may not know how to draw like I do, for instance. I'm not the best at it, by all means, but if you work enough, you can do something, even if it's not really a good drawing, but if it's funny, people will usually like it. Some of my favorite comic strips are really simple. There's one, I don't remember the name, but it's almost like stick figures, and they're really funny. So I think if the most important part is having the jokes in your head and being able to translate that to the screen.
It's crazy hearing that it takes 20 hours to get through this, and I believe it because there's so much that goes into it. But
Yeah.
I don't know how you come up with the scene, draw it all, come up with all the witty, every single part of this is just incredible to me. Dom, you were saying that you appreciate the things you can't do. I appreciate the heck out of this because I couldn't get anywhere close.
Thank
I can
you.
tell you that right
Oh
now.
no, I definitely
Cannot do
couldn't do
art
this.
whatsoever.
No, yeah, well, I'm not an artist. Definitely not an artist in the least. I think maybe the closest thing we could compare, Matt, maybe in the days when we were doing NASCAR stop motion videos, because there's an
Yeah,
art
yeah,
to
right.
that, and the time that it takes to put those together. But
Yep.
this is that on a whole other level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never tried even to do one of those because I'm just scared of the time that it takes to do it.
They
Well,
can be
fair
And you
fun, but
enough.
they can be frustrating. Yes,
don't have many die casts of NASCAR around here. Also, that's important.
yeah,
That's cool.
that can make it tough.
We get some other stuff to get to. Let's talk some headlines across the sport, and we'll turn things over to Dominic with the news of the week. Dom, where do we want to start?
Gosh, so many areas where we could go from the truck and Xfinity, or I guess O'Reilly Auto Parts series and the Cup series. But we're going to start with the truck series and Parker Kligerman making a return to the driver's seat, who's former driver turned broadcaster, stepping out of that role to have a fun time at Texas Motor Speedway there in May in a couple of weeks. Parker Kligerman was tapped as the next driver of the Ram All-Star Ride, the number 25 truck that the team has been doing with the rotation of drivers. Kligerman makes a return to pilot the number 25 Ram. And Kligerman has come with over 125 starts in the truck series. He's won multiple events in the series. So Parker getting his shot to come back out of retirement. I don't know if he necessarily retired. I shouldn't say that, but really cool to see Parker back in a driver role.
Matt, we'll start with you on this one. Parker, he's been a wheelbad. He has grinded so hard through the trucks in the O'Reilly series. He's been ultra competitive. Has never really gotten the opportunity in a big time ride. I was impressed with what he did to jump in that junior motorsports car at Daytona last year at the very last minute, the 11th hour. But what a good opportunity for Parker here. Like he could realistically take that truck to victory lane.
Oh yeah, no question. He's somebody who's actually kind of been a staple in the truck series too, running for the 75 team, and I feel like he's kind of become synonymous with that. When you think of the 75 truck, and those guys, you think of Parker Kligerman. So obviously at the short tracks like Bristol or wherever he's going. So I feel like Texas is kind of a little bit out of left field for a track for him to run at, but certainly with his recent O'Reilly series experience and all the things that he's done in motorsports, if they give him a good truck, he's gonna have a great opportunity to be the first one to win in a Ram in a very long time. So super cool opportunity for Parker. He's a guy who's been around the sport forever. Obviously, like most guys who want to be drivers, that's kind of his primary thing, and has wanted to do that. But it takes a lot of dollars, and he got to a point where he needed to take up some more broadcasting, and it's great to see him still getting some awesome opportunities to drive because I think he's absolutely super capable and somebody who belongs in a race car or a race truck. So it's exciting to see him get the opportunity.
What's kind of your thoughts, Parker, a guy that's been around for a while and getting this opportunity with Rams and Ram Truck and Kaulig Racing? This is a big deal for him here.
Me?
Bruno,
Oh, sorry,
what's your
sorry.
thoughts? Yeah.
No, the thing is that I really like Parker, and I'm always happy when he gets a good ride, and I think he can do really well. My question is if he gets the equipment to do it this time, but I'm really happy for him. He's always fun. He's always competitive, as you mentioned. The 75 truck, he was always driving the wheels of that truck, so maybe he can get it.
Parker has got to be one of the busiest guys in NASCAR these days because he's doing the O'Reilly races on CW.
Yeah.
He's in the pits for NBC. He's in the studio for TNT. And then he's still trying to race as much as he can in trucks and O'Reilly when he gets the opportunity here. This is a guy that doesn't know how to say no. I applaud him.
Oh, me too. Tyler, we joke that you have every minute accounted for. It really seems like Parker has every minute accounted for with every little role that he's able to do. But I think that just shows that he thrives in an environment like that. You want as many opportunities, and I'm sure it's keeping his name relevant. Clearly, he's still going to get opportunities to race when he can. Now, when you look at that program, it's their first year, the Ram truck program with Kaulig Racing. Ram just hasn't had the speed, but it's also a building year of sorts with the notebook and getting notes because we don't have testing in the truck series. So this is an opportunity for Ram to keep building and getting better. And what better than somebody who has won multiple races to come in and see where the program shakes out. We're going to be 8-9 races into the program at that point of the year.
Yeah, and the Ram truck program is still looking for their first win since they've made their return at this point. We'll see if Parker could potentially get the job done for them. What else we got, Dom?
Looking ahead at Talladega here in a couple of weeks, NASCAR announced earlier this week, through the week of April 10th, that the Talladega stages are going to be changing it up a bit. So to curb fuel and fuel mileage races and strategies, NASCAR has extended stage one of the race to about lap 98. And I remember that off the top of my head. So if I got that number wrong, let me know. But stage two and stage three set the stage for no fuel mileage, but rather shorter runs and the potential for green flag pit stops in stage one versus what we've seen over the last few years where fuel runs go about 40 to 45 laps, but we see drivers kind of backing it off and the pace of the race slows down. This looks to eliminate that altogether at Talladega here in a couple of weeks.
Give us your perspective. Does this change anything? What does this mean for this fuel mileage saving strategy at plate tracks? Do you think this is going to do anything at all?
I'll tell you what, I don't know if it's going to do a whole lot, to be quite frank. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news here, but I don't know. I believe that in order to do anything, it's just going to be a change of the cars. I mean, you're going to have to change the size of the fuel cell or do something drastic because, and even then, I mean, you can't put the genie back in the bottle that it takes less time to fuel a tank that has more fuel in it. So it's like, how do you make up for that? And I get it, the stages and making them shorter and whatnot, but I don't know, guys. I think no matter what you do, if you're going to have green flag pit stops at a plate track, you're going to have guys riding around and saving. Maybe it's something we need to take some drag out of the cars or do something to where the draft doesn't save as much fuel, I guess, but then it doesn't make for the racing being as exciting. So we're kind of at a weird point with this. I mean, good on them for trying something, but I think it's going to take a lot more to get rid of this fuel mileage, fuel saving.
Dom, I understand where NASCAR's coming from. The fans have been extremely frustrated by this, going back to what we saw at Daytona and Atlanta. But I don't think this is just a quick fix. They're talking about bringing back preseason thunder and having some testing at Daytona. Maybe they can experiment and try some things there, but I don't see there being a short-term solution to this.
No, and I think even Steve O'Donnell said that on the Door Bumper Clear podcast earlier this week too, regarding that. Okay, we're going to see what can be fixed with this, what can be working. I don't know. Maybe I'm in the minority here, but I felt like this really didn't need a tweak or a change to be going with. Fuel mileage has been a part of racing since the very beginning, and if this is a product of that and you have driver saving, I think that's also a race within the race too. And you'd have the crowd that would argue that the drivers aren't giving it 100%, but I would also say that they are, because if your fuel mileage, you're playing cat and mouse, you're at the end of the game, at the end of the day, trying to be able to get the best finish for your team. So I saw no issue with it. I personally don't think it needed to be changed, but again, might be in the minority there on that situation.
What's kind of your thoughts on this of NASCAR changing up the stages, trying to prevent this fuel mileage saving at these plate tracks here?
I don't think it's gonna work because if you eliminate it, let's a lot of people want to eliminate the stages. For instance, if you eliminated the stages, drivers drivers will slow down enough to make one or two less pit stops. So, like Matt said, the genie's out of the bottle, and they're gonna keep saving fuel. Another thing, O'Donnell also said they're thinking about, but for next year to make if you come for fuel, you have to change tires. That might work to change a little bit of the race, but this year I don't think it's going to change anything.
Let me ask you this. We've seen the speed slow down, and to the naked eye, I don't think that you see a huge difference as far as the racing itself goes for the casual fan that's watching. The diehard fan, guys like us, we know exactly what's going on in these scenarios here. And what I wonder is like, okay, it's going to have to take like arbitrary rules, I would think, like maybe a 100% rule that applies to the gas, or we mentioned the tire situation going on here. Like I think that the only way to combat this is to be aggressive about it. I don't see there being a shortcut to go around this. And honestly, like I think to the casual fan, it doesn't really make that big of a difference to begin with.
Bring back tandem drafting.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
That was awesome racing.
Hey, I remember us. I remember so many people at that time, myself included. I thought it was cool, but I was like, man, bring the pack back, right? I was part of that majority of people that was wanting the pack back. But in hindsight, maybe it wasn't so bad.
So maybe you're onto something there potentially, Matt. Dom, let's look ahead to this weekend at Kansas Speedway. This is my home track. I will not be there this weekend, unfortunately, but I love this place. Before we get into the odds and everything, Dom, like I could make a case. This is one of the best tracks on the NASCAR circuit. What they've done with the mile-and-a-half program, with the way Kansas has raced, the competitive finishes we've seen. There's been good crowds. It hasn't mattered if it was a day race or a night race. Kansas Speedway has delivered time and time again.
That's where I first met you, actually. For those that may not know that, I think that Kansas is always going to be a cool racetrack and one of the places I enjoy that drive. From New Mexico, that's not a quick hike down the interstate. It's a 12-hour drive to get from Kansas City to Albuquerque, the Albuquerque area. So I've always enjoyed the time out there. When you go out there, you can just feel the atmosphere. The fans enjoy it. There's a reason NASCAR has rewarded the place with 2 dates per year. And I look at the turnout out there, the great food that you find in that part of the country too. There's so much about that atmosphere at Kansas Speed. I could go on and on about it, but it's a great facility. And Clint Boyer really sings the praises about it too. And you lived in the area, Tyler. You can definitely speak more to this. But the fact that area off I-70 where the track is has really developed over the last few years. I remember going year after year and just seeing more and more come to the area. But NASCAR really does bring industry and can bring a boost to local economies. Clearly, Kansas Speedway is a prime example of that.
To kind of give an idea, folks, quick history lesson from Uncle Tyler here on that area. The Legends Complex, NASCAR, built that track, and it opened in 2001. And there was literally nothing out there. Kansas City, Kansas has been, I'll put it mildly, a dump for decades and decades. And they put that track out there, and then they built the shopping district around it. Shortly thereafter that, Sporting Kansas City, the MLS team, moved over there, and it really developed into something. And now the Kansas City Chiefs are about to move over there, and their new stadium is going to be right next door to Kansas Speedway, opening in 2031. and they're going to develop another shopping district and more restaurants and all of that. And you can have NASCAR to thank. If NASCAR would not have been successful there, then we would not be talking about the Legends Outlet or Sporting Kansas City or the Chiefs moving over there. It was because of what NASCAR did to build that area to make it what it is today, and has become one of the marquee events of the entire NASCAR calendar and why they have 2 races every single year. So with that, now that you've had your history lesson, Dom, let's take a look at the odds.
Looking at the odds this weekend for the Advent Health 400, you have Cup and O'Reilly Series action this weekend for the National Touring Series. Let's go around the table here. Who does everybody think is the odds-on favorite, and what are their odds? Tyler?
I haven't seen the odds. I'll go Tyler Reddick about plus 450.
All right. Solid pick there. Matt?
I feel like we've said Tyler Reddick like every week, and it's never Tyler Reddick. He's always like 16-1 or some crazy number. That is a really good bet every week. Maybe they're finally putting him up there, which they should be at this point. But give me Denny Hamlin at like 8-1.
All right. And Bruno, if you had to guess, who do you think odds
Uh,
makers are saying is the favorite for Kansas this weekend?
uh, I have no idea who they think, but for me it would be Chase Briscoe. I don't know why, but he's been really fast.
Really good
Don't
picks.
ask me odds because I don't understand anything about that.
No problem.
It's all right, me
No,
neither. I
really
just throw out
good
numbers
picks
every
there.
week.
Yeah, the numbers are always fluctuating on that, but the time of this taping, Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin are your co-favorites at plus 500, former winners at Kansas Speedway. Denny Hamlin, the 4-time Kansas winner. Kyle Larson, the winner of this race last year, 3-time Kansas winner at plus 500. Christopher Bell, plus 600. Ty Gibbs, the last week winner at Bristol at 900, plus 900. William Byron at plus 950. Ryan Blaney, Chase Briscoe, Chase Elliott, who won this race in September, and Tyler Reddick, all coming in at plus 1,000. Bubba Wallace at plus 2,000. Chris Buescher, Carson Hocevar at plus 2,500. Keselowski and Logano, each former winners at Kansas Speedway, coming in at plus 3,000. Ross Chastain plus 4,000. Alex Bowman, Ryan Preece plus 5,000. And as you work your way down the list, some of your longest shots there: Cole Custer at 1,000-1, Ty Dillon at 1,500-1, and Cody Ware 2,500-1.
I'm not betting against Tyler Reddick. And if he qualifies in the top 2, a Toyota at a place that he's won before, he's going to be tough to beat. I don't know what the odds makers are missing on Tyler Reddick. To me, that seems like an easy call. I got
No
Tyler
doubt.
Reddick winning this weekend. Who wins, Matt?
I mean, honestly, when you put it like that, I think Tyler Reddick's got the best shot of anybody. But I'll tell you what, I think Toyota's been too strong not to pick a Toyota. I agree with Bruno. I think it's going to be Chase Briscoe. I think he's going to break through. He's on the rise. It's time for him to get a win and start his season off.
Feeling bullish there on Chase Briscoe.
Okay. How about you, Dom?
Maybe it's the low-hanging fruit, because I went back and forth that too. Tyler Reddick looks really, really good. I did pick last week's winner, and I went on a streak of like 3 in a row last year, so I'm going to keep that streak going. I think we're going to put the doubt to rest. Kyle Larson's going to win the Advent Health 400.
And Matt will all of a sudden be shaking in his boots if Kyle Larson gets that done. We'll
Just like
see
you
how
and
that
Keselowski, my friend.
still hasn't won yet. So, but Ty Gibbs did prove me wrong.
Oh,
He
you
did.
picked him last week, so that's kind of weird that I don't know.
Yeah.
I we'll have to check back the tape on that. I don't think that's quite accurate, but sure.
I think if you check back on the tape, you might find something unexpected.
Yeah,
Or
sure.
expected. I think that was actually expected. He did pick Keselowski.
Maybe.
I was there. I do
Maybe
remember.
that's
We have
true.
the
I made my
receipts.
pick the week prior. And who did I actually take? I think I picked Ryan Blaney, actually.
Yeah, I heard Keselowski there, Kemp.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure you're breaking up a little, Tyler. I think you said Keselowski, right?
that was the fake news. The fake news going after me. Guys, before we get out of here, let's check in what's going on with everybody. Bruno, what's kind of the next few days look like for you, and where can people see all your work, man?
People can follow me on Instagram and X. You can just write hashtag Comics by Bruno, and you'll find my work because I have different names on both platforms, and it's in Portuguese. But my next couple of days is gonna be drawing a comic, working at the family business, and trying to enjoy the little sun that's showing here in the Azores, having some fun before going on a big trip in the next couple weeks.
Very good. Matt, you're back on the racetrack this weekend, right?
We are. We're heading out to Kansas. And man, to kind of piggyback on what you guys said earlier, that's one of my favorite places to go, man. That Kansas, the way that you can tell everything's kind of been built up around the racetrack, and it's just so cool. Like the area is just so cool to be in, and that's honestly to drive on. It's probably one of my, if not my favorite racetrack. It's up in the top three for sure to drive on, and just to be there. It's a super cool place. So highly recommend to anybody considering going out to Kansas. It's an awesome racetrack, but we'll actually be out there in the number 19 Chevrolet for Maples Motorsports in the ARCA Menards Series race. So wish us luck.
Luck wished to you, Matt.
Much appreciated.
Bring home the checkered flag for us.
Hey,
I want that
try.
checkered flag on my mantle. I'm already claiming it right now.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
We're gonna hope for some like rain. We're gonna do some crazy stuff under caution. We'll get it.
Yeah. Wreck the pace car. Why not?
Hey, whatever it takes.
Yeah. Dom, what's going on with you?
And real quick on it too, Matt. Yeah, if you get that checkered flag in your hand, you can't hand it to the little boy or girl in the grandstand. You got to be thinking about Tyler, okay?
That's right.
We're throwing that out there. Tyler called dibs on it. And yeah, you got to have some KC Joes.
I will be that little boy in the grandstand. Yes.
Hey, you won't be there. So, I mean, I don't know how I'm supposed to know.
Yeah, there you go. And yeah,
in your imagination.
If the weight's not
yes.
crazy, Matt, you got to have some KC Joes out there for the entire round table when you're out
Sounds
there in
good.
Kansas City.
Sounds good.
But
We'll
no, this
plan
weekend
on
I'll be at home. I've never made it to the Kansas May race. It's always been the playoff chase race that I've made it to. I would like to get out there someday for the spring race. I'm sure it's a different vibe, but it's still a fun one. But no, be home this weekend with the family and enjoy some much needed time out in Grants and just kind of not on the road right now, so I'm okay with that. How about you, Tyler? You're busy everywhere. Where's life taking you this weekend?
I am off to Detroit this weekend. There should be a lot of cars, good manufacturing city for Ford and Chevrolet and company. I'm off to Detroit to do some work with Peacock for their Puma AAU circuit, doing some play-by-play there. And then I will go straight from Detroit to Phoenix, where I am emceeing a golf tournament on Monday, a luncheon, and I'm also playing in said golf tournament. I have not picked up golf clubs since June of last year, so thankfully this is a four-man scramble where they probably don't need my golf skills. So it should be a great time. But Bruno, we appreciate you being here with us, man, and you're welcome back anytime. One more time, go ahead and plug where people can find you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Comics by Bruno on Instagram and on X, and that's it. Thanks a lot for it. Was fun.
We'll put the checkered flag out on this edition of the Racing Roundtable.
This last
Subscribe
hour.
to the channel for weekly episodes on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you get your podcast. Leave us a 5-star review or don't leave us one at all. Hit us up on social media. And check out the Studio Soapbox Network, this show, the Jones Report, on all podcast platforms. Also check out our continuing NASCAR coverage on NASCARRoundtable.com and the RacingExperts.com as well. For Dominic, Aragon, and Matt Kemp, I'm Tyler Jones. Saying so long. This has been another edition of the Racing Roundtable. We'll see you next week.